Welcome back. You're watching HFO-TV. HFO-TV is co-sponsored by J.R. Johnson LLC, specialists in multifamily restoration and repair work. Gantry Incorporated, the nation's largest independent mortgage banking firm. Butler Exchange Group, offering 1031 tax-free exchange services. And Forensic Building Consultants, experts in the diagnosis, repair, and preservation of multifamily assets.
Welcome back to HFO TV. My name is Adam Smith, broker, and today we have with us Scott Bailey, regional economist at the Washington Employment Security Department. Welcome.
There we go. Thanks.
Yes.
Great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So it's been a year since you've joined us. A lot has taken place. It's been a very tumultuous 2 years, it feels like. Talk us through, where we're at in the road to recovery from a COVID perspective, specifically related to Southwest Washington and Clark County as a whole.
Okay. Well, I'll kind of start at the top.
Sure.
If you look at the U.S., we're still about 0.5% employment-wise below pre-COVID levels.
Okay.
But we've had population growth since then, so we're actually more like 2.5% below. So we need to create roughly 100,000 jobs every month just to keep up with population growth, so over 2 years. So we're still a couple million jobs below where we should be to be getting, quote, back to normal.
Okay.
The state of Washington is right there with the U.S. Oregon is slightly behind that. Portland Metro is roughly where Oregon is. But Clark County, in terms of total employment, is fully recovered and then some.
And then some. And does that pertain to the employment or the overall population growth in Clark County as well?
That pretty much covers it. We're back. So we have employment estimates through March. We'll release April next month, but also we'll be revising the last 6 or 7 months, and that revision is looking rosy.
Good. Yeah. What's the next year look like for Clark County specifically? Is that something you can speculate on?
No, we were joking before going on that economists have predicted 7 out of the last 5 recessions. Yes. Nobody's very good. None of the models really work past a couple of months. Right. And if you look at the big issues of the day, you can find an economist saying just about anything on whether we're going into a recession or not, what's causing inflation and what's the cure for inflation. There's quite a bit. It's interesting reading the headlines.
Yes. Talk us through, what obviously, 5 miles in a river separates us from Portland MSA to Vancouver. How has Vancouver or Clark County as a whole recovered faster than Portland has from a macroeconomic standpoint?
Yeah. So both Seattle and Portland, by the way, are not as well, recovering more slowly than their state averages.
Why is that?
I think in part, with Seattle, with both cities, it's restaurants. They have a higher concentration and more of the upper end, and the employment just hasn't come back. And some of that is sales, but some of that is labor force. And in Seattle, you've got Boeing, which is has 20,000 jobs below where it was, the aerospace industry pre-COVID.
And that's the entire industry, not just Boeing.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. But Boeing dominates.
Correct.
And then there's
that industry, right.
Also the spillover into suppliers. So that's partly why Seattle's lagging. Portland, I think the restaurants is part of it, but it's just hasn't come back as quickly.
Right.
And really, if you look around at metro areas around the country, you see a really wide variation in how things are doing.
Right. What, kind of the hot topic or conversation that I'm having with owners right now of multifamily is, what's inflation going to do over the next year? And then, the subset question of that is, what does the horizon for interest rates look like? And then, how does that trickle down to rent? And growth from a building perspective. You speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So
and I know that's kind of a broad.
So let's start with inflation,
Sure.
and you can come back and say more
Sure.
about that. So inflation has three causes right now, and two of them are talked about quite a bit in the press.
Right.
One is on the supply side. All the supply chain issues that we've had, along with labor shortages in some industries. People are pretty familiar with that, and they're still with us in a lot of cases. And with what's going on with China right now, and they're locked down, we're going to see some glitches there.
Yeah.
The war, the Ukraine-Russia war, is certainly adding to it, and it puts a whole nother spin on a number of things. So that's one big piece pushing inflation up. So if you break inflation down now, the 8% over the year, a big part of that is gas and fuel and heating,
Right.
Energy. That's totally supply side. We are actually our driving habits haven't recovered yet. We're using less gas than we were 2 years ago. So that's not a demand issue. It's a total supply issue.
Correct. Yeah.
The second piece is demand side. It's been argued, and I agree with it, that the stimulus was maybe a little too much.
Too much money pumped in.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, on the one hand, on the other hand, you go back to 2008, there was a stimulus then. It was too little, and we took 7 years to recover.
Right.
Nobody has the magic number. Nobody knew how COVID was going to roll out. We still don't. Know.
Yes.
So am I? If you're going to err, would you rather have a job with some inflation or no job without inflation?
I'll take the job.
Yeah. There we go. So, but it's too much in terms of both putting money into people's hands. Student loans. Being suspended in terms of all those kind of things. Now, most of that has played itself out. So we saw January, a big drop for a lot of families in that monthly extra child care tax credit that they were getting.
Right.
And it hit people pretty hard. Because you had families for a while saying, wow, we finally got a little extra money, we can pay down some debt, we can...
And then that got cut off.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's been the supply side is there, but I think it's pretty much, demand side is there. I think it's pretty much close to coming to an end now. The third piece is corporate profits. They are up enormously.
Yes. We've read a lot about that in the news.
Okay.
Yes.
And some people are saying, no, blah, 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 blah. It's big. It's probably half of inflation right now.
Is corporate profits.
Yes. The increase in corporate profits.
Sure.
So is that going to go away? This has been building for a long time, 30, 40 years that we have not been enforcing antitrust laws. And we've allowed these monopolies and oligopolies to develop in a lot of industries.
Sure.
And it's just one piece of the supply chain. If it's tightly controlled, you're going to see a price increase.
Right.
So what's going to happen going forward? The increase in interest rates are still really
I think people
low.
lose perspective of that, and I'm
really low.
I'm a few years your junior, but interest rates to me have always hovered between 5.5 and 3.25. That's my era of this is all I know, right?
Hey, I bought my house 10% mortgage.
Exactly. Or my parents at some point
5 years later refied for 7. down to 5.
Right.
Last one is 3, paid off now.
Right.
But yeah, there's still even the Fed's bumping it up by half a point. Big deal in the grand scheme of things.
I think
now,
that's...
it'll affect decision making, but in terms of what's a normal economy look like, we've got a long ways to go to get back to normal in terms of interest rates.
Sure. What does regionally, and zero in on your expertise of Southwest Washington, what the road to, obviously you're in a better position than you were even pre-pandemic, is what you're saying. And I think I genuinely think that Vancouver as a whole is poised to grow significantly more over the next decade.
Yeah.
What's driving that, and what can Portland or Oregon as a whole learn from that?
There's always different dynamics between a central city and its suburbs.
Yes.
And let's be clear, a third of Vancouver, of Clark County, works over in Portland. And that's been constant for decades.
Right.
And what's different, though, and maybe part of the reason why Vancouver's job growth continues to be higher than average for the metro area, if you look at Washington County, there's, it used to be, Canyon used to be blocked one way and nobody going the other direction, depending on which rush hour you were in.
Sure.
And now it's completely blocked both ways. Vancouver, it's still very much people living there and working in Portland, and very few people like me who live in Portland and work in Vancouver, or relatively few. So if there's more job growth there, then maybe we start to see that
a little equilibrium
balance,
of sorts.
Balance out.
Yeah.
So there's, I think that's part of it. There's a different tax structure, and that can play either way for companies. And what's really nice that I've seen is around economic development. Initially, it was extremely competitive between Vancouver and Portland, and then it moved to working together. We get a client coming to the metro area, and then where's the best fit, which is much healthier for both parties. Hey, we're in this
rather
together.
Than fighting. Sure.
Right, and so that'll make a difference for some people, but it's, I've heard for years of, because of taxes, people are moving to Vancouver in droves, and well, somewhat, but that's part of the city to suburb thing that's been going on. So, we'll see. Sometimes there are things that do make a difference, or there's a tipping point. But I think it's land availability.
Big time. I think that's a big part of it too. Yeah. And I think that there's obviously a shift towards, or at least I feel there's a shift towards moving towards suburbia to some degree. And
that stopped in 2008 in terms of swinging singles in Portland, because that's where the nightlife was. You meet somebody, you have a kid, and you go say, where can we get a yard?
Sure. I'm in that group.
And the cheapest yard was not in Portland.
Correct.
Until 2008, when it flipped for 5, 6, 7 years. And you can see that in Portland Public Schools. Kindergarten counts went up, and in about 2015, they started going back down.
Fascinating.
With the housing more expensive, it's pushing people to the suburbs again.
Yeah. What are you seeing from income wage trends within Clark County?
So Clark County has always been kind of middle class in terms of having less poverty and less on the extreme wealth end as well, and a pretty high, relatively high median household income. And that's been true all the way through the teens. We don't have good data for 2020. I'm not sure if we'll have good data for 2021 because COVID has really messed up surveys. But we have good, I've just crunched wage data for 2021. So the median hourly wage went up, way up in 2020 because we lost all those low-wage jobs.
Yeah.
They came back in 2021, so the median
You're
went
seeing
down slightly.
a decrease. But if you compare that to 19, where are we seeing from 19 to 21?
It's a nice 2% gain both years, which is on average.
What you'd like to see as an economist.
Yeah, that's really strong growth. Yeah. And we're seeing that across the board. And we're especially seeing it on the upper end, which appears to be where job growth has been. And by upper end, I mean, I'm talking six figures.
Right.
So one of the industries, the industry that's grown the most over the last 2 years in Clark County is professional services, which tend to be higher end jobs. Right. And it's not any one category of that or any big employer. It's a lot of small, medium-sized employers.
It's kind of how you'd like to see, I presume, a job chart, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's not...
means everything's being lifted.
And that's really been the shift over the last 10 to 15 years in the county from, sort of blue collar and then electronics manufacturing into a couple of headquarters. Got Fisher Investment out in Camas, high-end financial jobs. And now a lot of these professional jobs moving in. So it's changing the character of the workforce. Adding, I think, a lot of leadership in terms of those professional jobs into the community, and it's becoming more of a place unto itself. Vancouver's always kind of felt like, the kid brother.
Sure. Yeah.
And now maybe doesn't feel like, you look at the waterfront.
Oh yeah, it is gaining its own identity.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, I think, a lot of what I see going on there.
From a development standpoint on the housing side, any data points we're sharing that our audience would like to hear from a
2021, I think, was the record year for, I keep track of permits, which is the same as starts, but reasonably close.
Sure.
Permits were all-time high.
Yeah. And
strong for both single and multi. The first 3 months I've got data for 2022 are good, not quite where they were, but it's only 3 months.
Sure.
So still continues to be a strong construction market for single family and multifamily.
Good. Anything else that I've missed on that you'd like to share at all?
So one data point, and I don't have fourth quarter yet from the
21.
state. So just through third quarter, taxable retail sales have been incredibly strong across the nation, but also in Clark County. Some of that's online, of course.
Sure.
But huge growth there. Hotel motel was still struggling, down about 20%.
But that's not an anomaly to Clark County.
That's all over.
I'm guessing that's even better recovery than, say, Portland.
Probably because it's not nearly as big a market.
Right.
But some new hotels due to come online in the next year. Again, some along the waterfront, some elsewhere. So I think another 6 months and that'll recover. I know Hilton has seen business come back and
Sure.
Conventions booking. And restaurants were recovered in terms of sales, and that's true nationally as well.
Right.
Labor is still a struggle, but
yeah. Well, thank you for joining us.
You bet.
Scott Bailey with the Regional Economist for Washington Employment Security Department. And thank you for joining us on this episode of HFO-TV.
Great. Thanks, Evan.
Thanks.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 503-241-5541 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information.